Heads up, fellow female leaders, executives, and founders. We have just opened enrollment for the Fall Renegade Accelerator. You can head to renegadeaccelerator.com to check out all the information and apply.
There was this message around women stepping into their calling that was kind of lingering under the surface for me. So I finally just got off my butt and started writing more, put in a proposal, and got to the place where I was able to actually publish. So Life Starts Now is here. It's out in the world.
I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step. We have one of the original renegades on the show today. Chanel Dokun is on the show, and she is a new author. I'm so excited for her because this was a dream of hers. She's the author of Life Starts Now, How to Create the Life You've Been Waiting For. And Chanel has created just that. So she used to work in magazine publishing. Years ago, she left that career to pursue her own life purpose. And now she actually has a book about this very thing. She is a master at guiding and helping others find their life purpose and build a plan around it. So picture this concept of, you thinking that you will finally be happy if you build the great career or find the meaningful romantic relationship or craft kind of that picture perfect life. But once you get those things, you ask yourself, why isn't this enough? Shouldn't there be more? Well, you're not alone. And that's exactly what this book is about that Chanel has written, Life Starts Now. So in this discussion that we have, which is wide-ranging, we talk through literally how to take those steps in building the plan around your life purpose. This is a wide-ranging conversation. We even touch on the experience and situation that Chanel created, which involves Oprah. Yes. She actually got to tell Oprah about this project, about this book, and shared the stage with Oprah, in fact. One thing I appreciate about Chanel, and I think you will too, is that she has a radical commitment to honesty. You can't fake that. And it's a key ingredient in being able to architect that life that you actually want. Now, you will hear a lot about Chanel's philosophy and then also the conceptual tips into practice, right? The tactical next steps. That being said, there's nothing that can replace you actually reading this book yourself. So I encourage you to pick it up. So Chanel Dokun, Life Starts Now, is well worth your time. It's the career love of my life to see these renegades go through the process of activating and actually executing their dreams. They go from dreaming to doing, and in this case, I have been able to bear witness to that very thing. So without further ado, here is Chanel and I on Why Not Now, talking about Life Starts Now. Heads up to my fellow female leaders, executives, and founders. We've just opened enrollment for the Fall Renegade Accelerator. Now, this is the career love of my life, and we have been around this block a few times. This is version 9, and it all started as an experiment. Now we have hundreds of women across the globe within the Renegade community. You can head to renegadeaccelerator.com for all the information. You can learn about the program. You can hear from the Renegade graduates. You can hear their results, watch their videos, check out the curriculum, the testimonials, and everything in between. Years ago, I went to Mark Cuban for some investment advice, and I thought I was going to hear him say something about real estate investing or maybe something specific about the stock market. That was not the case. What he said to me was, Amy Jo, invest in yourself. And from that point on, I really did double down on myself. And it's amazing to see the ROI. The Renegade Accelerator is definitely the career love of my life. It's an intensive, real-time virtual training program that continues on. This is not a stop and start. We provide the foundation for the Renegade mentality that extends into everything you do personally and professionally, whether that's growing and scaling your business, climbing the corporate ladder, getting on boards, generating more wealth through investing. If you're fundraising, we also focus on that, as well as, maybe most importantly, building your personal brand so it opens the doors that you need to get you exactly where you want to go. Now, if you want something you've never had, you must do something you've never done and go somewhere you've never gone, right? And usually that means surrounding yourself with people you've never surrounded yourself with before. So that is exactly what this is about. And when I've practiced that in my own career and in my own life, the growth has been exponential. Talk about 10x the way you think and execute in that scenario. It's real. Now, in this program with the Renegade Accelerator, we focus on building your personal brand online and offline. I've been doing this for well over 15 years, and I've done it with some of the biggest names out there, some of the biggest brands out there, from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, helping him build his strategy, boots on the ground from the very beginning and beyond, to Hilton Worldwide, to executives, to athletes, celebrities, founders, you name it. And that's what we're going to do with you. In the Renegade Accelerator, I provide the step-by-step playbook for you to grow your thought leadership, your voice of authority, your influence, both online and offline. We also focus on public speaking. Now, this is a big area in the curriculum because getting on those stages and growing that thought leadership, becoming more and more of that voice of authority, is super important to be able to get you to where you want to go. And you know what we do? We help you get paid to do so. Now, there's a business side to public speaking. I've been public speaking for about 15 years professionally, which means getting paid to do it. There's a definite playbook and business operations around this. We teach you that. We also teach you the performance side, which is extremely important as well. The curriculum is equal parts education, collaboration, and accountability. Now, we are industry agnostic for a reason, meaning we have women from all different verticals and different industries, because that value exchange and that ability to share the intellectual capital ends up being exponential. So that accountability is also key. Renegades are all about taking action, massive intentional action. And of the over 200 graduates that we have in this Renegade Collective, they have all said, you know what, I signed up and joined the Renegade Accelerator for the curriculum, for the education, and for the content, but they stayed for the people. They stayed for the results and the network and the people. So once you graduate from the Renegade Accelerator, you automatically become a member of the Renegade Collective. This is where you will have access to everything from peer circles, from the other graduates who have graduated before you, to experts, in-person live events, this network of women who opens doors and who are committed to your goals and your growth just as much as their own. Renegade Collective members are personally investing in one another. We are making introductions. We are hiring one another. We're sharing that expertise and that approach that really has created exponential growth for the community. We have had many Renegade Accelerator grads on this podcast, so please listen back to those episodes and hear from them as well. If this piques your interest, head to renegadeaccelerator.com, take a look at everything, apply, and we will circle back with you. If it's a good fit right now, we have limited seats and we can't wait for you to join this Renegade community. We already have an incredible roster who has joined for this next cohort, and we'd love to add you to the list. So head to renegadeaccelerator.com and get that application in. Chanel, welcome to the Why Not Now show. I'm excited for this conversation. I've been looking forward to it. In the spirit of Why Not Now, can you tell me about a time when you had a big decision to make and you had to ask yourself, why not now?
Yes, absolutely. Well, one, I'm so happy to be with you. And two, I'll say my why not now basically happened. It involved a magazine, a display kitchen, and a 16-year-old girl in Germany. So for me, I used to work at Hearst Magazines. It was my dream as a little girl to work in publishing. And I had gotten a job. This is back in 2008, 2009, right around the time that the recession's happening. Magazines were shuttering left and right. The magazine industry was in an upheaval. But I had landed my dream job at House Beautiful. And each year, House Beautiful had decided to build a life-size kitchen, the kitchen of the year in Rockefeller Center, where like 350,000 people walk through right where they put that Christmas tree. And so I was standing behind these velvet ropes in Rock Center in this life-size kitchen with a ton of tourists staring and looking at me and kind of wondering, like, who's this girl? And for your listeners, I am a 5-foot tall Black girl. So I'm standing there and they're like, who is she? What is she about? And I remember just thinking, oh my goodness, like, this is it. This is the moment that I've longed for professionally. I made it. And I'm living my dream. And that thought was immediately followed by, oh my God, this is so unfulfilling. And I thought, like, this is not enough. This is not the total sum of who I am. There has to be more in life. I have been pursuing this life of significance and success, and this isn't satisfying. And so my heart had been drawn to this 16-year-old girl that was in Germany. I'd had this side hustle of writing about dating, and I'd started a blog, and this girl was following it. And she'd emailed me asking about what to do with her boyfriend. She was like, my boyfriend's pressuring me to be intimate with him. And it was like all this stress for her. And I thought, well, one, where's your mom? Why are you emailing this random woman in America to ask her what you should do? But also recognizing that I was the safe space for her. And she was trying to process relationships and who she was in the world. And I thought, oh my gosh, my heart is so much more drawn to those kinds of big questions of women asking, young women asking, who am I? What am I about? How do I hold my own ground? That was wooing me more so than the dream that I'd had. And so I felt, why not now? Like, this is the moment to leap. I've got to jump into something new.
My gosh, I love this story so much. I'm like over here taking notes. So here you are, and you talk about this dream of working in publishing and how we all have this vision, and then you're there and you're like, well, darn, what do I do now? Like, so when in the juxtaposition of then getting that email, was there a literal moment, like being there at Rock Center at the Christmas tree? I can just visualize that. Would you say it was a brewing, or was it just like this cannonball that just hit you? Because a lot of times people romanticize why not now moments. They're like, oh, and there's this one moment, everything changed, but actually it was building. Do you remember that season of like, no, this marinated for a while?
Yeah. I think the path to pivot takes about as long as the path to, our growth and success in other areas. I was just listening to your podcast earlier. And I was listening to the episode that you did with Leah, which is amazing, by the way. People should listen to that one. And you talk about the length of time to go from 0 to 100 or 0 to 1. And you're like, 0 to 1 is so hard to get there. And then like 1 to 100, yeah, there's like a lot of advice and strategy for that. And I feel like that was the same with my path to pivot. It was like in that moment, yes, it felt like a light bulb, but that had been brewing for a while. There'd been growing discontent and disillusionment and all these tiny little heartbreaks along the way, that growing sense that this is not satisfying. And a lot of moments, to be honest, where I didn't listen. I think I tried to silence it. I tried to soothe the ache of what was happening inside me with other things. Like maybe I'll just try harder. Maybe if I got a higher position, so I should go for a promotion. At first, I was at House Beautiful, but the dream magazine for me was to be at O Magazine. Everybody wants to work with Oprah, right? So that was my goal. Like maybe if I get a job with Oprah, then I'll be happy. And maybe if I get a boyfriend or get married, then it'll all feel great. And so all of those things had been brewing for years. And finally, I think the why not now moment was when I finally faced that all of my strategies weren't working anymore. And I had to do something more substantial if I really wanted to experience more satisfaction.
It's like that calculus it didn't equate anymore. I love how you talk about the path to pivot and the tiny heartbreaks along the way. Let's fast forward. So we met in 2018, and I have witnessed this journey, like front row seat of the way you navigate life. And you are now an author, right? You are an author, and talk about publishing. So your dream was to work in publishing, and now you are being published. It's so rad. It's so rad. So life starts now. Tell me a little bit about, let's talk about the book, and let's talk about the path to the book.
Yeah. So you're right. I'd always wanted to work in publishing. It's so funny now being at this point of actually publishing my own work. And then I'm having to talk to people about it. And I was like, I'm always on the other side of this table in conversation, right? I was always interviewing, and I spent a lot of time as a freelance editor. And so I had a lot of moments throughout my career that I think prepared me for this, in terms of I've done writing on a smaller scale. I didn't know that I could do long form. There's a difference between blogging and writing articles to writing a 200 plus page book, right?
Huge.
So
difference.
That was
right. Yeah.
Understatement.
Anyone
right?
listening, let's just all be real here. There is a big difference.
There's a huge difference. And I think I'm a little bit of a snooty English major. So there's a part of me that I felt like if I write this, it's got to be really good. I wanted it to be not just informational, but also felt like the quality of the writing needed to be excellent. I don't know if it's excellent, but I'll say that I wanted to give it my best shot and honor the art form. And so that was a big part of it. But for me, the book came about really sitting, and that's a funny other additional why not now moment. It started in the pandemic. So it was 2020. And I think it was around May or June, and we'd been sitting in quarantine for a couple of months. And I thought, wow, this thing has been on your heart for so long to do. When I first met you, it was one of the first things I'd shared is Amy Jo, help. I want to write a book. And you were so great at advising me around that. But I just didn't pull the trigger. And then I ended up getting to this place in 2020 where I thought everything else has been stripped away. Life feels so uncertain. There is no promise for tomorrow. And why am I staying in this place where I'm not honoring the thing that I know I desperately want? And so I started tinkering. I have a practice that I do as a reclaim the morning time. So I would spend this time journaling, and every morning on the page, I would see myself talking about how badly I wanted to write this book. And there was this message around women stepping into their calling that was kind of lingering under the surface for me. So I finally just got off my butt and started writing more, put in a proposal, and, got to the place where I was able to actually publish. So Life Starts Now is here. It's out in the world.
It is out in the world. And I'm excited to dive into that word that you just said, tinkering. I started tinkering, and I think we talk a lot about experimenting as renegades and how everything just starts as an experiment. And that's such a great word of it just doesn't sound so intimidating and daunting. Like you started tinkering and now you have a published book. Like you have a book, you got a book deal, but it started with tinkering. Like how innocent and like easy, right? And I think that so we talked about 0 to 1. Sometimes we put so much pressure on just even getting across the 0.0001, that starting line. And if we can make it more playful and fun and enjoyable with tinkering, like it just can kind of start to add momentum. So here you are. I'll never forget the video you shared on social when you got your book deal. And you dancing with your son and like just the joy. There's a story about your mom that you've told before, and if you're comfortable with it, I'd love for you to share because it's just another full circle moment, and I feel like seeing is believing. So for those of us who are listening and thinking about something big and doing it and starting with tinkering, do you mind sharing the story?
Yeah, no, I don't mind. So yeah, my mom was an amazing woman. And I think the moment that you're referring to is when I was really little, she used to take me to bookstores, and that was our space of celebration. And I'd get treats every time I did well at school. I got to go buy a new book. So we were sitting at a local bookstore, and I was walking through the shelves, and my mom kind of paused and she said, "Hey," asked me very innocently, "Chanel, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And I kind of rattled off right away, "Hey, I want to be an author." I was looking at all these books. I was obsessed with Terry McMillan at the time, which was way above my age range of what I should have been reading. But I thought, I want a book. I want a book on one of these shelves. Like, this will be so great. Either that or I want to be a television reporter, I told her. And she just smiled, and she had these 2 huge dimples on the side of her face. And so they just got deeper, and she grinned at me. And her eyes kind of started to glaze over. And that moment when someone's looking at you, but they're no longer looking at you. And I remember pulling on the hem of her dress and just kind of going, "Mom, like, where are you? Where'd you go? What's going on?" And she said, "You're so lucky. You're so lucky that you know what you want to do and who you want to be." And she paused and said, "I never knew who I wanted to be when I grew up. No one ever asked me." And she said, "I just took care of my brothers and sisters, and I kept raising them. And then I had kids of my own. And I always thought that eventually it would be my turn and that I would finally get my chance to do what I wanted. And that time never came." And unfortunately, my mom, which something you should know about her is that she was the oldest of 11 children, and she had a single mom. And so she literally raised all of her own siblings. And then she had 3 kids of her own, and we're all 10 years apart, which she used to laugh and say that she forgot how she got us. So she would get us again. So she spent about 40 years of her life raising kids under the age of 10. And she never got her chance. And so that is so much of what undergirds the work that I do is I think about my mom, and I think about all of the women who are waiting for their turn. They're waiting to start living. I mean, that's Life Starts Now, right? That's that impulse to have that title, is to invite and call women to the life that they're living now. Like, you don't have to wait. Your time doesn't come eventually. Your time is now, and you get to step into it right now in this moment.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Eventually it would be my turn. I can just, I can kind of hear those words ringing in a lot of people's minds right now. And your book, I am fortunate to, have had a spin through an advanced copy. I feel so privileged saying that. And I'll never forget where I was sitting when I started reading it. I was sitting, outside. I'm by the pool, and you talk about wanting to honor the art form. Well, you did. You absolutely did. It's gorgeous. Like the words are beautiful, but also I felt like as I was reading it, I was like, oh, she's talking to me. Like a different seasons in my life, especially in the opening where like you just nail it and you see people and you create a space. I'm like kind of emotional right now. I'm like just so excited for you. But you create such a safe space for people to be able to translate that into a book and on page, words in that form is not easy. So I want to encourage everyone to read and pick up, Life Starts Now. It's not only is it enjoyable, but obviously extremely valuable. And I think what you said about especially women, just waiting for someone to tap them on the shoulder, waiting for their turn. And it's so sad, but no one's coming. No one's coming. Right? You gotta show up, right? Like, hello. And I hope that more, people read and listen to that message, because it does. Life is in session. Like, we're in it. We gotta, this is game time right now, right? So I think about that space that you create for your clients, for your friends, for your family. And I'll never forget too, voice noting you. I was going through something a few years ago and I just shared everything via voice note to you. I want to dive into this because you do have an essence that allows people to just open up, and it's what you do for a living too, in helping people navigate their lives. But what is it about creating that safe space? Do you have a formula per se? Is it just channeling?
Yeah. Thank you for all that you've said. And I think that I have a radical commitment to honesty, right? And I think that there is something about just telling the truth and to be non-judgmental and to leave space for people just to feel whatever they feel. And I think we spend so much time as people feeling, this is the idea of the life of significance. We're so externally formed. We feel this pressure to live a certain way, to be a certain way, to show up in a certain way. And I think when you just give people space to be human, something magical happens. And of course, I'm trained as a therapist. So there is that space of I naturally ask good questions and create safe spaces for people. There's some training in that allows me to do that. But I feel like I've always been that way of I'm the person who says it. I just say the thing. And, the opening part of the book, I thought about all of these inspiring ways that I could open this book. And the first line is, can we talk about how miserable you are? I just thought, let's start there. Let's actually just be honest. Let's not pretend that everything's okay. Because once we get that out of the way, we can actually get to solutions. We can actually get to a place of hope. Nothing good comes from pretending or lying to ourselves or to one another. So I think that's what drives me. It's the honesty of just, yeah, I do that too. And, other people are miserable too. Cool. Let's move on. Now what do we do about it?
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Hi, everyone. If you are digging this podcast, please do us a favor and subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. It just takes a moment and it means a ton to us. Okay, so can we talk about Oprah? I'm going to say the thing. I'm just going to go there, right? So it started, I just see you at Hearst. For some reason, I see you in this elevator. I've been to that building and it's gorgeous. And I see you in this elevator at Hearst. And here you're well, maybe if I get this job, then I could get this one and this one. And eventually I might work for O Magazine. Well, fast forward, you're published author. And who meets Oprah this year and actually gets to hang out with her? Yes, maybe virtually. You. So tell us how this all went down.
Yeah, well, vision. I do a vision board workshop at the beginning of each year. I put together a vision board and I put Oprah and Oprah's book club on my vision board. I was this is the year I'm going to meet her. It's going to happen. And lo and behold, I end up chatting with Oprah. It came out. It's another why not now, right? It's putting yourself out there and just being honest about the thing that you want. And I think somehow when we say it, when we speak, my mom used to say this to me. She's we speak our lives into existence. And so she would always say, be so careful about the words that you use because they have power. And so when I finally just said, man, I want to meet Oprah. Like, I want Oprah to know. There's something special to me about her knowing that I had written a book. When the Oprah show was on television, I desperately wanted to be on the show. I loved every time she'd have an author on, and I was like, I'm going to write a book and be on the Oprah show. And then her show got, she ended it and has gone on to many other things, of course, but the way that it looked ended. And I was like, man, I didn't write my book soon enough. And I got this opportunity. She has this like membership community, and she essentially does the Oprah show, but she was doing it virtually. And so every month she invites some guests, and she invites a panel of audience members and experts and various folks to participate in the conversation. And I got to be one of those people. I just like pitched myself for it. And there I was, like, sitting, and it's so fun because of Zoom. It's like I felt like I was closer to her than I would be in real life, because it's like we were side by side,
probably, right?
Yeah. So it felt amazing and just so fun to show up and feel like a bucket list moment, really happened.
Oh my gosh. I think when you posted in the Renegade Collective Slack, I mean, people post cool things, and we've got that Celebrate and Elevate channel, and it's like, you're going to see some engagement, some pretty cool emojis, but like, we're talking the biggest stats ever of a post. And this photo of you is a screenshot of you and Oprah. You could not look more joyful. Like, you can't fake that shit, right? And you're like holding your kind of heart, and it's just like, holy shit, she totally did it. I love it.
Yes.
You know what just brought me back? Like, Chanel, so do you remember when Oprah had that theme song, Oprah's On? Like, we're talking... Yes. I remember being in the trailer in Sheridan, Wyoming, with my TV tray, the kind that like you sit on the ground, and it was a rainbow on it and a unicorn, and the Schwan Man had come and my frozen whatever, and I'd watch Oprah. And I must have been, gosh, I was young. But we're talking like when Phil Donahue was up against Oprah, right? At the same TV slot. And so I know exactly what you mean of just watching this being. And again, seeing is believing, right? Like, we watched her, and that was, we're talking in the 80s, probably.
Yes. Right? Yes. And talk about, you mentioned earlier the power of tinkering. And I think Oprah, to me, is a great example of that. No one can be the architect of that life. Like, it's so out of control and like larger than life. You can't plan for that. And I think that's this element of just like pursuing what you're curious about and what you're interested in. I mean, even when I got to talk to her, I was like, wow, she really just like shows up in the world that way. Like, even behind the scenes, she was just curious about people, and she just gives space to the moment. Like, she just serves the moment. And I thought, oh, wow, like that's what's made you so incredible, is your ability to just play and like be yourself, like be in your own skin, and just be curious about like, how can I help people today? I was like, wow, she literally does that. Like, it's not an act, which was pretty amazing.
That's awesome that you feel you were able to be exposed to that real raw version, right? And what a gift to know that that's the real deal. Like, you got to actually see it, touch it, be that close. So, okay, I want to take us back to Hearst, 2008, 2009-ish. The world, everybody is just like kind of spinning. Reminds me of 2020. Reminds me of 2001, right? Everybody's just like, what is going on? And you had landed your dream job. And as our friend Reagan always says, it went from, this is it? Like, what? This is not... If you were to go back to Chanel in 2008, 2009 and say something to her, knowing what you know now, what would you say?
I'd probably say, just go for it. Like, go for it. None of this matters. I think that we build up this narrative. No, you know what? I'll say one other thing to her. No one is watching you. Because I think that so often we stall because we have this invisible audience of spectators that we think is evaluating us and judging us and making some decisions for our life, and that they're measuring, like, did she follow the path she was supposed to follow? And there is no path. There's no roadmap. There's no right way to do life. There's only your way to do life. And so I think that for me, I just wish that I had felt more freedom to just break out and just go for it, rather than wondering, like, what will people think of me if I don't keep this job? Like, this is the job I always wanted. So if I quit, what does that mean? Am I a failure? Does that mean I couldn't hack it? What will happen next? Like, I'm on the path and I see the path of growth, right? There's always like the next step and the next step. And I see the person ahead of me, but I feel called to this unwieldy path that's not marked out, where I'm going to need like a machete to hack through and find my own way. But my God, that path is so much better. Like, it's so much better. It's so much more interesting. And it's the one that I am uniquely like capable of living. I feel like the funniest thing has been that every single experience of my life has been used in some wild way, right? Like I got, I met this particular person at that moment, and it's because of that relationship that I was able to do this thing later. And one of the reasons I think I'm so great with my clients is because I've worked in the most random fields, from real estate to, health insurance, and like all these like different companies that I got to be a part of, where in the moment I thought, like, what is this all for? And what I didn't know is that I was picking up all these little shares of like life equity along the way that I can now use. And I wish I had just gone for it, that I trusted that I had what it took to live the life that I wanted much sooner.
So I have so many notes here. It goes back to what you said too, of you can't architect that, like with Oprah, and then with your mom, like just eventually I thought it would be my turn. And the answer is no. You're going to have to make that your turn, and you decide, right? The fact that you realized, and now you realize no one is watching you. Like, how freeing is that? Right? That's like, people could take it a different way, but if there's anything to take away, go for it. Because you know what? No one actually, people care about you, but they really don't care what you choose to do. So I'm so excited for you. I know this isn't the last book. Like, I can just hear the next one coming. And we'll see. You can architect that. You're like, let me just get through this one. Life Starts Now. It's such a gem. Like, it just is. Thank you for writing and doing this important work, and for being a friend and being such a part of the Renegade community as well. And we'll make sure we follow the tracks, because this is just the beginning. What a year you've had. Thank you so much, Chanel.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your Why Not Now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins. And of course, a hat tip to Richard Brewer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time. And until then, why not now?